Hello, readers! Here today to talk about recommending books to the friends. I love this show. I didn't actually get to start watching it until I was in college, and then binged every single episode. It's one of those, I watch it on repeat, I leave it on in the background if I just want some noise in my environment. I love it. Of course, it has its issues today. Some shows age better than others, but The Friends is still just a classic. And I thought, you know what? They read a lot of books on that show. You see books in all of these different scenes, and I considered watching every single episode and writing down the books in the scenes. But instead I just got on Google and saw what Google said so that I could better judge the Friends' reading tastes. Some of the Friends I focused more on their personal reading tastes, and some of them I focused more on their personalities and their relationships and what I think they need in life. So just remember, this is all opinionated and the Friends aren't real. I'm going to go ahead and start off with Monica and focus... Why are you focusing on my plant? I'm going to go ahead and start off with Monica. This is my easiest one because I only have one book that I have recommended to her. I don't know that Monica needs all that much. Like, sometimes I think she needs to take it down a notch or two, and this book won't exactly help that. But anyways, my book recommendation for Monica is The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up. What else could you possibly recommend her? Like, she would get a kick out of this book. She loves cleaning. I think it's really her coping skill in life. And the other thing with Marie Kondo, as well as with her show, is that it's not just about cleaning up. There's also a discussion of the relationships you have with the other people who are sharing your space. So I think that could help her. I think that she would really like this book. That's all I have for my Monica recommendation. As for Ross, again, this is stuff that I think he would just find interest in. My first recommendation for him is The Rise and Fall of the Dinosaurs, A New History of a Lost World. I have heard nothing but great things about this nonfiction. I am really excited about it. I have not actually gotten a chance to read it yet. I'm hoping to read it sometime this year. If I don't get to it sooner, then I will go ahead and do it for Nonfiction November. I really want to read this book. I've been looking forward to this. And it being a dinosaur book and like the newest research on dinosaurs, you know, he would love it. One of my other recommendations, I think it was based on one of the books that Google said that he'd read at one point. I would recommend Caitlin Doughty, specifically From Here to Eternity. This is not my favorite book of hers. I definitely preferred Smoke Gets in Your Eyes, which is her memoir. It was so much more personal than From Here to Eternity, but it was still really interesting. It's exploring the kind of death practices of different cultures around the world. I think you would find this really interesting because he's not just into dinosaurs, he's into culture in general. And I think that he would really enjoy learning about death rituals of different cultures. Maybe he could write a book on the death rituals of dinosaurs. Who knows? But yes, he would enjoy Caitlin Doughty for sure. Also, I should link down below the resource that I used if I can find it again. Really just search books that show up in Friends on Google and you'll find them. Next up is Joey. Joey I had to do some thinking on. We all know that he put The Shining in the freezer because it freaked him out. And he also wanted to put Little Women in the freezer because Rachel spoiled it for him and then said it wasn't a spoiler, and then it was a spoiler and he was sad about it and he put it in the freezer. So Joey is not the brightest star in the sky all the time, but he's read some famous books, he's read some classics, but he is also a child at heart. So for his recommendations, I went ahead and put down 2 children's classics. The first one is A Little Princess, and the second is A Little Prince. I have not read A Little Prince yet. It is sitting on my shelf. I do believe it counts as a novella, so I will get to it. What is up with my camera focusing on random objects? I will get to A Little Prince sometime in the next couple of months for sure. I hear great things about it. It's just this journey of this little boy and a little princess I love. My mom introduced me to the story, and you have this little girl, Sarah, who's really rich, and she goes to this boarding school, and then her dad passes away, and she officially has no money. What is up with... You know what? I'm moving the plant camera. You can't focus on the plant anymore. Anyways, she has no money, but she still remains this sweet little girl who works hard for the people that she loves, and I think you would really enjoy that. Again, Joey being a child at heart, these children's classics I think you would really latch onto and love. Then we have Regina Phalange. I mean, Phoebe Buffay. She is my personal favorite character. I love how weird she is, and she just owns it. Like, she is kooky and she loves it, and she loves herself. I love her so much. And I have 2 book recommendations for her. One of them is Women Who Run with the Wolves. This one was one of the group reads for our shared shelf, which unfortunately has since been canceled since Emma Watson doesn't really have time for the group anymore. But that was one of the books that she suggested reading. I started it. It wasn't totally my thing. It's kind of a story of the different myths of women, and it was kind of, I guess the only way to describe it is woo-hooey, if you're familiar with that term. But even though I did not personally enjoy that book and did not finish it, I can definitely see it being something that Phoebe would get a kick out of. Women Who Run with the Wolves, she would love the title, she would love the mythology of women, and just women taking control of themselves, taking their lives into their own hands. I think she would really love that. Another book that I think she would really like is Wild. This one is a memoir by Cheryl Strayed, and she's basically going onto the Pacific Crest Trail and trying to find herself. And I think Phoebe would have a lot of appreciation for that journey. I think she would really connect with Cheryl Strayed. I think she'd get a lot out of this book. So next up we have Rachel. Rachel was another really tricky one for me. She is very smart. She isn't into classics all that much, or at least she doesn't take time for them, as we saw from the course that she took with Phoebe. I had to look around. I had to really think on it. But I think I found some books that she would take interest in. One of those is 3 Women. This is a newer nonfiction book. I just read this a couple of months ago, and I loved it. Like, I still haven't collected all of my thoughts on it, but I loved it. It's essentially Lisa Taddeo studied these 3 women for, I believe it was 8 years, and just watched them living their lives and really focused on their sexual lives, on their sexual histories, on their current sexual lives, the way things went for them. So you have the girl who's taken advantage of by her teacher, you have the woman who's in kind of a polyamorous relationship, you have all sorts of sexual exploration going on in here, and it just kind of owns it. It doesn't question their sexual lives. It's just like, these are who these women are, and that's all there is to say. And I really liked that, and I think that she could get a lot out of this. Again, just exploring different relationships and different ways to do sexuality, how good relationships don't necessarily all look the same. I think this could be a really important book for her to read. The other one that I ended up picking out, again, is one that I haven't actually read yet. This one, I keep seeing it on Hillary's shelf, Hillary from Melted Books. I basically talk about her in every single video. And that is Big Magic, Creative Living Beyond Fear. Again, I haven't read this. I don't know that I'm going to. It's not like particularly high on my list. But it seems like it's basically about being creative, about owning your creativity, discussing how you get inspired. She discusses the attitudes, approaches, and habits we need in order to live our most creative lives. Rachel is essentially a very creative person. She wants to get into fashion. She wants to explore the industry. She wants to build herself a career. And at the beginning of the show, we really see her struggle with that and not really get into it because it's like, oh, I can't just go out there in the world. But eventually she does just go out there in the world, and she does make it. I think in a lot of ways she lets Ross kind of hold her back. The end of that show wasn't my favorite for her storyline, but again, I think that's where this book comes in. It's about living creatively. You'll have to go over to Hillary's channel, really, to learn more about the book, but I think that could be another really important one for Rachel to dive into. And lastly, we have Miss Chandler Bong, aka Chandler Bing. Another kind of tricky one. I really tried to focus on who he is as a character and what his relationships are with his loved ones. Again, did a lot of thinking on this and where all I wanted to go with it, and decided on 2 books. The first one is Hyperbole and a Half. This is kind of a comic setup or a graphic novel sort of setup where this artist is exploring anxiety and depression in their life. And this is really important for Chandler, especially with growing up with divorced parents, and he still like has a lot of rage for that. And then towards the end of the show, we're seeing him be unsatisfied with his work. And it's also a really funny book. It's looking at depression and anxiety, but it's also laughing about the situations that the artist gets into. And I think that he would find this hilarious and informative. And like I've said with all the other books, he would get a lot out of it. The other book that I think he should read, and again, this is a book that I have not read myself, but I think it sounds amazing. That is Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, an inquiry into values. This is basically following a father and son on a summer motorcycle trip, and it's also exploring meditation and how to live better. And I think he would struggle with this book, honestly. Having this close father-son bond and discussing it, I think that could be a really tough read for him, but I would hope that it would also inspire him. I think he could potentially have a really great relationship with his dad. She kind of gives him the space that he asks for, but she very much wants to be involved in his life. So it would be a tough read, but I would hope that it would also inspire him to have a better relationship with his dad. Particularly, I think it would be really fun if Chandler would allow his dad to dress him up in drag and do a show with her. Like, I think it would be tough for him, especially with his friends making all the jokes about his sexuality, which that's one of the parts of the show that hasn't aged so well. But I'd love to see him just get up on the stage and drag and just own it and just have fun and use it as a bonding experience with his dad. And this book could inspire him to do that. That was one of the trickiest ones to come up with, but that's also the recommendation that I'm the most proud of, is Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance for Chandler. That one, I think that would be a great one for him. So that is it from me. These are my reading recommendations for the friends and books that I think they would really like and that would be meaningful for them. So please subscribe, be my friend on social media. Let me know if you have any other ideas for recommendations videos. I can see myself doing one for Sex and the City in the future. I think that'd be fun. I'd have to think on it and see what else I'd want to do, but I had a lot of fun with this. I post every Wednesday, Sunday. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to ring the little notification bell if you want to know whenever I'm posting next. And that is it from me. Bye, friends.